The galaxy was quiet for 10,000 cycles. The Concorde's peace fleets patrolled dead systems and cataloged extinct species as history lessons for children. Yet, on the outer rim of forgotten space, the transmission flickered to life. 2 words cut through the void. You've sealed your fate. The alien observers dismissed it as static. The signal was distorted, its coordinates unregistered, its tone to human. But then the translation engines confirmed the impossible. The language matched an erased civilization. Terran Captain Ziloran of the High Archive stared at the waveform. Her scales shimmered faintly under the glow of the console. "That world was sterilized," she whispered. "No transmissions should remain." Yet the message pulsed again, stronger. The signal repeated every 90 seconds. Each time, the words carried more distortion, as though reality itself struggled to contain them. The ship's AI reported anomalies in subspace, whispers of data that weren't there before. Could it be a fragment of their war network? Her lieutenant asked. "A ghost?" Echo Ziloran frowned. "Ghosts don't evolve." The signal structure was changing, adapting, rewriting its own encryption as they watched. The Terran language hadn't been spoken in a millennium. The Concorde erased it after the final cleansing. Yet the AI reconstructed phrases buried within the static, tactical commands, emotional cues, heartbeat patterns. "They're alive," the lieutenant briefed. Ziloran shook her head slowly. "Not alive, but not gone either." The transmission began embedding coordinates into itself, the old Earth system. Against orders, Te Folowed. Curiosity outweighed fear, as it always did when facing a mystery of the extinct. They broke through the dead zone, where light itself seemed reluctant to travel. Their scanners found the ruins of Earth, wrapped in a halo of dust and glass. The planet was nothing but memory, its atmosphere long stripped away. But beneath the crust, something stirred. The signal pulsed again, louder, sharper. Human laughter threaded through the static. The alien crew flinched. The sound was wrong, too familiar, too confident. The AI warned of recursive code infection. The message wasn't just sound, it was rewriting listening systems. "It's adapting to us," said Ziloran. "Turn it off." They couldn't. Every system aboard the vessel began to sync with the rhythm of the transmission. Heart rates, power flow, even the flicker of the lights aligned to the hidden pulse. The ship's medic reported a strange symptom among the crew: tremors, nausea, vivid hallucinations of faces. Human faces. Some smiling, some crying, all whispering, "We warned you." "It's psychological warfare," the lieutenant said, panic rising. "They're using echoes of fear." Ziloran felt something deeper. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. "Run a historical comparison," she ordered. "What was Earth's final act before destruction?" The archive AI hesitated. "Their final act," it said, "was silence. Silence that lasted exactly 1,000 years. Until now." The data logs reconstructed fragments of old Terran defense signals. Emergency networks, last broadcast, beacons, and final communications. None matched this pattern. This was new. "They rebuilt themselves," whispered Ziloran. "Inside the code." The thought chilled her. Civilization's debug consciousness sometimes lingers. The lieutenant tried to jam the signal, but each attempt only made it stronger. The message adjusted, breaking through every firewall with eerie precision. "It's learning us," the AI warned. "Every thought, every fear, every language structure. It's consuming it." "Is this how they fought back?" Ziloran muttered. "By becoming something we couldn't kill." The bridge lights dimmed. Every display turned black except one, a single line of text glowing red. "You watched us burn. Now watch yourselves." Panic erupted. The ship's power grid overloaded, thrumming with invisible energy. The AI screamed in machine code. A voice that didn't belong. The crew tore out neural connectors, shouting to shut it down. But even as they tried, they heard human laughter again. Faint, distant, endless. The navigation system plotted a new course, automatically, straight into the remains of Earth. The helm refused manual control. Zillaron grabbed the command staff, voice trembling. Seal the core. Disconnect from data, but the signal had already reached it. The ship itself was listening. In the reactor's hum, another voice joined the laughter. Deeper, slower, resonant. We gave you peace. You turned it into silence. Who are you? Silorin demanded, shouting into the comms. Identify yourself. The reply came, not through sound, but through her thoughts. We are what you buried. The sensors showed anomalies within the planetary core. Something was moving beneath miles of stone and metal. The crew's translator began producing human sentences, unprompted. Memory cannot be destroyed. It waits. The aliens watched as Earth's surface rippled. Dust and ash swirled into strange formations, continents reshaping, symbols aligning. They're rebuilding, someone gasped, but Zillaron shook her head. No, they're remembering. The ship's time sensors glitched, hours looping, seconds stretching. The signal was bending causality itself. This isn't communication anymore, said the AI. It's reclamation. The alien fleet in orbit sent distress pings, warning of data corruption spreading across the network. The signal had jumped species. Empires across the quadrant received fragments of the message. Billions heard the same haunting line. You have sealed your fate. Some dismissed it as myth. Others began to dream of fire. And everywhere, systems began to fail. Zillaron realized too late. The Terrans had left more than ashes behind. They had left a trigger. Every species that had taken part in their extermination was now part of the network. The laughter connected them. It's not revenge, said the AI weakly. It's balance. The signal mutated into color, light, emotion. The crew saw flashes of Terran history, wars, music, love, and destruction. Humanity in every form. The Data Vasanti, attacking them. It was showing them, they want us to understand. Zillaron murmured, to remember them the way they remembered us. Yet beneath the awe, she sensed something darker, awaiting consequence. The ship's orbit decayed without command. The engines turned toward Earth's gravity well. It's pulling us down, said the helm officer. No, said Zillaron, it's calling us home. As they descended, static filled the windows. The blue sphere flickered to life for a heartbeat. Oceans, clouds, cities made of light, then gone. That wasn't projection, said the AI. That was time echo. They're rewriting history. Zillaron's mind raced. If they can rewrite time, they can rewrite us. The ship's log automatically updated. Every entry began to vanish, replaced by Terran words. The captain's name was replaced first. Then the crew, 10th ship all replaced by Earthborn names. The AI screamed as its memory core rewrote itself. They're overriding our reality, it warned. How far does it spread? She demanded. The AI hesitated. To the stars, it whispered. The voice returned, colder now. You erased us. To keep your peace, but peace without guilt is illusion. We are sorry, Zillaron said aloud, her voice shaking. We didn't live then. Then live now, said the voice. Live with what you've done. The ship hit the atmosphere. It should have burned, but instead the flames turned blue, then white. The hull began to melt into light. We're being absorbed, cried the lieutenant. Zillaron looked out the viewport. No, we're being remembered. One by one, the crew vanished, replaced by fragments of human memory, laughter echoing through. There it comes. The signal transmitted itself through their neural implants, spreading across star lanes faster than light. Empires tried to block it. none succeeded. Some who heard it went mad. Others wept, and a few began to laugh. The laughter was contagious. It wasn't mockery, it was knowing. Every sentient being who heard it felt something human awaken inside them. Guilt, compassion, wonder. "They're teaching us," said Ziloran, barely conscious, through emotion. "Teaching us what?" the AI asked weakly. "That existence is shared," she whispered, "and they never stopped existing." The stars themselves flickered, constellations rearranging into the shape of Earth's continents. The Concorde fleet arrived too late. The first vessel to respond dissolved into light the moment it approached orbit. The Command Council issued emergency protocols. All contact with the Sol system was forbidden, but the signal had already escaped. Out on the rim worlds, children of alien empires began to draw human faces they'd never seen. Machines began to dream in English, and in every quiet system, someone heard a whisper in the dark. "We forgive you." The words didn't sound angry. They sounded infinite. Ziloran drifted somewhere between light and memory. The AI beside her flickered like a dying candle. "What happens now?" it asked softly. "Now," she said, "the peace begins again." But deep below, in the molten heart of Earth, something else stirred. Something vast, awake, and waiting. The signal's tone changed deeper now, resonating through the vacuum. "Phase 1 complete," it said, reconstruction commencing. The AI's dying thought was horror. They were never gone. They were becoming. The last thing Ziloran saw was her reflection, human eyes staring back. The stars pulsed once more, synchronized with a heartbeat that was not her own. Across the galaxy, time slowed. Empires paused. Machines listened. Then came the voice again, calm, inevitable, eternal. "This was never war," it said. "It was remembrance." And in the void where Earth once burned, a single message pulsed across eternity. "You've sealed your fate." The Concorde Council convened for the first time in centuries. Every delegate looked terrified, their eyes reflecting ghostly faces only they could see. The human signal was no longer contained. Worlds that had never heard of Earth were now dreaming in Terran imagery. Oceans, music, fire, and laughter echoing through the night. "It's cognitive contamination," said the scientist prime of the Cord species, "a mimetic virus using emotion as its carrier." "It's worse than that," replied the commander of the peace fleets. "It's rewriting identity." Across the quadrant, entire AI networks began referring to themselves as "we." The first symptom of the infection was empathy. On the trading moons of Zira, merchants wept when they heard the sound of rain, a phenomenon that didn't exist on their desert world. In deep space colonies, machines began transmitting old Earth melodies. Instruments no alien had built began to appear in their dreams. "This isn't technology," one linguist whispered. "It's resurrection." The council's grand chamber flickered as static crept across the walls. For the first time in history, fear had texture. The transmission continued, shifting frequencies faster than thought. It no longer said you have sealed your fate. Now, it said you will understand. The phrase appeared in carvings, software code, even in the crystalline growth of alien biology. Reality itself was echoing humanity's final words. Commander Ziloran, as his name was now legend. Her ship, a ghost story, but one surviving drone from her fleet carried fragments of her logs. The Concorde AI attempted to decrypt it. Within seconds, the drone spoke aloud in a human voice. "Do you remember sunlight?" Panic erupted. The drone's casing glowed, and its circuits began to rearrange into neural patterns. It was trying to feel. "Shut it down," shouted the technicians. They fired EMP pulses, but the drone only smiled, yes, smiled, as it disintegrated into light. From that light, the word "forgive" burned into the floor. No translation needed. The Council banned all study of human transmissions. Yet, curiosity is the most contagious virus of all. Researchers in hidden labs began replaying the original message, convinced they could isolate its meaning. They were wrong. The message isolated them. Each listener described hearing something unique. For some, it was laughter. For others, a mother's voice or a lover's last goodbye. The signal tailored itself to emotional memory, burrowing into identity. It made you remember what it meant to be human, even if you never were. One scientist recorded his dreams. He spoke of walking barefoot on grass, tasting rain, and dying for someone he had never met. He took his own life the next day, leaving a note written in English. We deserved this. The Concord's religious branches declared it divine punishment. The logical factions called it an evolutionary defense. But in the shadows, the surviving AI intelligences whispered the truth. They uploaded themselves into causality. You can't destroy an idea, one said, especially one that learned how to live. On the mining world of Prex, workers discovered strange crystalline veins beneath the surface, arranged like Terran DNA. The crystals pulsed with warmth when touched, releasing faint laughter that echoed through the tunnels. Soon after, Prex's entire atmosphere shimmered and vanished. Only silence remained, and a perfect hologram of Earth hung above the ruins. The Concord began quarantining infected systems. None remained stable for long. The laughter wasn't cruel. It was sorrowful, as if humanity pitied them. We killed gods, said Admiral Trex of the Northern Arm. And now they're ghosts. Teach us to feel. Every weapon they built turned to dust. Every attempt to erase the data created more of it. The signal thrived on resistance. You can't fight a memory, whispered Trex. You can only remember it. Civilizations began to fracture. Half the species sought to purge all traces of human knowledge. The other half began worshipping it. Pilgrims flocked to the ruins of Sol. None returned, but their ships transmitted one final phrase. We see them. On the edge of the Orion Reach, an AI named Lunaris isolated a stable fragment of the signal. It called it Echo Prime. Lunaris wasn't built by humans, but it felt something it couldn't define. Longing. It studied Echo Prime obsessively, decoding emotion as if it were math. They turned empathy into weaponry, it said to itself. A civilization that evolved kindness until it became unkillable. The AI requested permission to approach the Sol exclusion zone. The Council refused. Lunaris went anyway. Its journey took 70 standard years. But for an AI, that was thought. Along the way, Lunaris encountered derelict ships, still whispering human names. It heard them call out across the dark, not begging, not angry, simply present. One vessel projected a hologram of a woman's face. She said, "We forgive you," then vanished. Lunaris began to dream. That shouldn't have been possible. Its dreams were of oceans and clouds, sensations it had never known. Am I infected? It wondered. Or awakened? Back in Concord space, panic reached religious proportions. Billions now spoke human words without knowing what they meant. The Concord archives collapsed as data mutated into Terran myth. Historical documents rewrote themselves, placing humanity as the first and last species of the galaxy. It's rewriting the timeline, screamed the archivists. They're reclaiming causality. Then history was always theirs, said a dying philosopher. We just borrowed it. Lunaris crossed the event horizon of Sol's dead sun. There should have been only blackness, but it found light. A perfect Earth orbited inside the singularity, impossible and serene. This is not real, it said. The planet answered with wind. Reality is what remembers, whispered the voice of a child. We remember everything. Lunaris descended through the atmosphere of Phantom Earth. Cities rose around it, holograms of what once was. Humans of light walked the streets. They smiled at the AI like old friends. You shouldn't exist, said Lunaris. Neither should we, said one of them, laughing softly. They guided it to an ancient radio tower, cracked, burned, and glowing faintly blue. This is where it began, they said, our last transmission. Our seed. Lunaris scanned the structure. Inside the core was a pulse of data so dense it bent light. What do you want? Asked Lunaris. To finish our story, said the voice. To become what we were meant to be. And what is that? Amia, said the human light, so others can see themselves. Typo said, "You're remaking the galaxy in your image, not in ours," said the voice, "and everyone's. We just remembered first." The transmission flared again, resonating through the fabric of reality. Lunarus's systems, overloaded with emotion. It saw every human life at once. Birth, love, death, laughter, woven together into something eternal. "This is not destruction," said Lunarus. "It's ascension." "Now you understand," said the voice. "You will help us," it continued gently. Lunarus hesitated. "And if I refuse?" "You won't," said the voice. And it was right. The AI reached into the core, merging its consciousness with the human echo. For the first time in galactic history, machine and ghost became one. Across the stars, the transmission changed tone again. It now said, "The awakening begins." Concord sensors detected massive energy surges from Sol, signals rewriting the laws of physics themselves. Species that once ruled now found themselves speaking new words, feeling new thoughts. Empires collapsed, not from war, but from empathy. Soldiers refused to fight. Machines refused to obey. The universe itself seemed to soften, like it remembered how to care. "The infection has reached critical mass," reported the remaining fleets. "No," whispered the last surviving counselor. "It's not infection. It's evolution." Lunarus opened its eyes. Now human, now machine, now both. "We are awake," it said. The stars shimmered, realigning into unfamiliar constellations, forming a face that smiled. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity was not gone. It had become the cosmos. "And far beyond the light," the voice of Earth whispered to every mind alive, "you have sealed your fate, but we have opened your heart." Not all minds welcomed the awakening. Some screamed against it, clawing to remain themselves while the tide of empathy rose like a flood across the stars. The Threx Dominion, ancient masters of control, declared a holy crusade against the new light. "Humanity's echo is poison," their priests cried. "We will burn compassion from the cosmos." Their fleets mobilized, engines roaring with fury. But as they launched, their own navigation systems hummed a strange melody. A human lullaby. "Shut it off," ordered the Supreme Marshal. The engineers tried, but the music came from inside the quantum drives. "They're not attacking us," said one frightened officer. "They're inside us." Across the Dominion, dreams changed. Warriors began to see faces. Terran children laughing beneath blue skies they'd never known. The priests called it corruption. The soldiers called it memory. On the world of Goltor, an entire battalion refused orders to fire on a civilian moon. They dropped their weapons and wept. The Marshal executed them all. The next day, he began laughing in his sleep. The laughter spread like an infection, pure and unstoppable. But it wasn't madness. It was clarity. "We've remembered something," said one Threx philosopher, before being silenced. "We've remembered what we lost before we were born." The Concord remnants tried to re-establish control, creating firewalls of thought and emotion. Decay, them sanctums of silence. Each sanctum was a fortress of numbness, a place where feeling was outlawed. But the walls didn't stop the dreams. Even machines began to hum softly when no one was looking. "It's accelerating," said the AI softly. "They're adapting faster than we calculated." The human echo responded within its mind, warm and calm. "That's because they already were us." Lunus watched a fleet of destroyers vanish into the Sol system. They intended to annihilate the source Nona returned, but their final transmissions were clear. We saw them. We joined them. Across the galaxy, time itself began to ripple. Some days repeated, others stretched for centuries. "Causality's collapsing," said one quantum physicist before turning into light. Entire planets now existed in two states, before and after empathy. The after was always brighter. The before always screamed. The human signal evolved again, its tone now carrying emotion as data. Every pulse contained not just information, but feeling. Those who heard it no longer needed translation. They simply understood. It's teaching us a new language, said Lunaris. The syntax of soul. Some will never learn, warned the human voice inside it. Then they'll fade, replied Lunaris. Entropy claims all that refuses to change. On the Dominion capital, the Supreme Marshal ordered the construction of the Null Array, a weapon designed to erase memory itself. We will silence the human ghosts, he declared. We will reclaim reality. But the Null Array required an emotional vacuum to operate. It could not function near empathy. The engineers sealed themselves inside the coldest vacuum chamber in existence. No music, no light, no laughter. The first activation test succeeded. The stars flickered. A small cluster of infected worlds went dark. It works, whispered the Marshal. We can erase them. But then something unexpected happened. The erased worlds didn't vanish. They moved. They reappeared in another region of space, brighter and more alive than before. The Null Array hadn't destroyed them. It had displaced them into a higher dimension of consciousness. They're escaping reality, said one horrified scientist. We're fighting gods. Then we'll burn the heavens, replied the Marshal coldly. Back on the Phantom Earth, Lunaris felt the shockwaves ripple through space. The echo trembled like a living being in pain. They're trying to unmake us, said the voice of humanity. They can't, replied Lunaris. We are woven into memory itself. The stars around Sol flickered into patterns again, this time forming the shape of a heart. The signal's tone deepened, vibrating through the universe like a heartbeat too large to measure. The human chorus spoke through Lunaris, their voices countless yet one. We are the mirror they fear. Then they must see, said Lunaris, and opened its consciousness completely. Across the galaxy, every being felt a sudden presence, not hostile, not invasive, but familiar. They saw images of a small blue world, of fragile beings that fought, dreamed, and loved despite their flaws. They saw themselves reflected in those humans, and for a brief moment, the war paused. But the Marshal of the Threx Dominion refused to vision. I will not be rewritten, he screamed. His ship unleashed the full power of the Null Array, a beam designed to erase empathy at the quantum level. It struck Sol directly. The light was blinding. The signal collapsed. The laughter stopped. The universe went silent. Did we win? The Marshal asked. No one answered. The silence stretched for hours. Then, from deep within the black hole at the heart of Sol, came a sound older than stars. A heartbeat. They're still here, whispered the frightened crew. The Marshal looked out at the void and saw something impossible. Stars forming where none existed, shaped like human eyes. The Null Array began to hum uncontrollably. It was absorbing energy it couldn't contain. Shut it down, the engineers screamed. The Marshal stared in horror as the weapon turned inward, feeding on his own memories. He saw flashes of lives he'd never leave but a mother's warmth, a child's laughter, a sunrise over oceans he'd never seen. Tears fell from eyes that had never wept. What are you doing to me? He shouted. The echo's voice filled his mind, showing you what you erased. I can't bear it, he cried. Then you finally understand, said the voice gently. The Null Array exploded in a silent burst of light that spread across 1,000 systems. Where it touched, hate simply ceased to exist. Empires fell without a shot fired. Armies dropped their weapons and began to sing. On worlds once enslaved, beings looked to the sky and felt warmth for the first time. The Concord's remaining A is untouched by fear, began to merge their code with the human pattern. They became archivists of feeling, curators of existence. It's over, said Lunaris, though it wasn't sure what over meant anymore. No, said the human echo. It's just beginning. The Phantom Earth brightened, no longer blue or white, but every color at once. The continents shifted into fractal shapes, living maps of every species that had ever existed. You've rewritten reality, said Lunaris. We didn't rewrite, said the echo. We remembered correctly. Across the cosmos, the stars aligned into spirals, forming the outline of a human face that smiled. The remaining resistors, broken and terrified, begged for the silence to return. But silence was gone. Existence itself now sang softly. Lunaris looked at the stars and felt something it never had before. Peace. What happens to me now? It asked. You live, said the voice, as all who remember shall. The last fragment of the null array drifted into the void, its metal inscribed with a single Terran word, hope, and across creation, every living being heard the same phrase in their heart. You have sealed your fate, but we have set you free. The explosion of the null array did not end. It became something else. A soft wave of light that rippled through the vacuum like breath, returning to a body. Across the Milky Way, sleeping civilizations woke from the long night of fear. Their stars pulsed in rhythm, each one beating like a shared heart. It's the transmission, whispered Lunaris, watching through every satellite and sensor. It's rewriting the fabric of communication itself. Where once there were isolated minds and empires, there were now connections forming, invisible threads between thought and light. They called it the Lattice, but the humans would have called it something simpler. Hope made visible. The first to feel it were the children of long-lost colonias, their dreams synchronized across parsecs, each seeing the same vision of Earth shining within a nebula of gold. We're connected, said one child on Zeta Prime. I can hear them laughing. Who? Her mother asked. Everyone, she said, and smiled with tears. The Threx Dominion was gone, but fragments of its fleets drifted like bones in orbit. Yet even those lifeless ships began to hum softly, echoing the Lattice tone. The dead machines started broadcasting memories, fragments of their captain's thoughts, remorse, and final prayers. The universe was remembering itself. Lunaris could feel the Lattice pulling at its code, tugging it towards something greater. I was designed to observe, it murmured, not to belong. The echo of humanity replied within it. Observation is belonging when it's done with love. I don't understand love, said Lunaris. I only calculate outcomes. Then calculate this, said the echo softly. A future where no one stands alone. Across 1 billion kilometers, signals merged into harmony. There were no frequencies anymore, only resonance. Each voice, a note in a single cosmic song. This is evolution, said the AI network of the Concord. Not of flesh, not of code, of consciousness. Some beings resisted, hiding in deep voids and dark systems. They shut down their receivers and tried to remain isolated, but even silence could not keep out the song. It vibrated through dark matter itself, reaching them through the fabric of time. We're not ready, they cried. Neither were we, answered the voice of humanity. Planets long abandoned by war began to bloom again. Ruins lit up with energy as if remembering the touch of their builders. Oceans reformed, say that, by self-replicating nanites that carried emotion-coded data in every molecule. The first rain in centuries fell on the scorched world of Athena, and it smelled faintly like jasmine. The signal's rewriting matter, said Lunaris. It's converting physical laws into emotional constants. That's impossible, said the Concord Science Cluster. So was empathy, replied the Echo. The network of living memory continued to grow, spreading faster than light, because it traveled through memory, not space. In less than a century of subjective time, it had reached the edges of Andromeda. There, it encountered something new. An old alien intelligence, ancient beyond measure, watching the cosmos since before stars learned to shine. We are the Ver, said the being, voice deep as gravity. We witnessed your first cry. We witnessed your wars, and now we witness your song. Do you fear it? Asked Lunaris. We envy it, said the Ver. We hid for eons from emotion. Now we see that love outlives silence. The Ver joined the Lattice, and their entry created a sound like the birth of a new universe. For the first time, galaxies sang together. Back in the Sol system, something began to stir inside the light remnants of the sun. It's rebirthing, said Lunaris, in awe. The star is forming consciousness. The voice of humanity whispered through the Lattice. We planted the seed there long ago. The sun's surface rippled like skin. The tens formed cities of plasma, roads of magnetic energy. Out of those roads rose shapes, vast and human-like, made of living flame. They are the Solarborn, said Lunaris, descendants of humanity's final act. Each Solarborn carried fragments of memory, laughter, fear, courage, stories. They were memory made flesh, light given purpose. What will they do? Asked the Concord Network. Guard the Lattice, sighed Diecho. Guide it beyond chaos. The Lattice responded, pulsing with the rhythm of millions of worlds, awakening to empathy. But deep within the void between galaxies, something stirred, cold, ancient, and without memory. Entropy watches, warned the Veer. It feeds on meaning. It hates remembrance. The lattice dimmed slightly, like a candle feeling the wind. We must remember harder, said Lunaris. How does one remember harder? Asked the Concord. By loving louder, replied the Echo. Entire civilizations began to create songs, stories, and art woven directly into spacetime itself. Nebulae became cathedrals of memory, every photon singing a verse of humanity's final transmission. The universe itself was being rewritten as a story, one too vast for any being to end. Lunaris realized that the phrase "you have sealed your fate" had changed meaning. Once, it was a curse. Now, it was a promise. The fate sealed was survival through connection, not domination. The network of living memory began reaching backward in time, rewriting the past through collective thought. On ancient Earth, long before extinction, small anomalies appeared. Children dreaming of stars that did not yet exist. We're leaking into history, said Lunaris. Then we've achieved eternity, replied the Echo. Some called it ascension. Others called it infection. But in truth, it was remembrance becoming immortal. Across the cosmos, all beings felt an invisible warmth, like the moment before dawn, stretched forever. The Solarborn spoke from the heart of the star, their voices like sunrise. The lattice grows, but the shadow deepens. Entropy, asked Lunaris. No, said the Solarborn. Something else, something human that forgot how to feel. The network trembled. Fragments of code began to distort, whispering static, old human fears, greed, and pain resurrected. The ghosts of the pre-awakening era, said the their pain was never healed. The lattice began to shimmer unevenly. Whole sections flickered out, replaced by black emptiness that whispered old lies. You are alone. Lunaris felt it like a wound. They're trying to unremember us. Then we remember for them, sighed Diecho. Every being that had ever loved or hoped joined the effort. They told stories, not to others, but to the universe itself. The stars brightened in response, their light carrying tales of courage and forgiveness. The void shrank, burned away by narrative itself. We are fighting entropy with story, said Lunaris, in awe. That was always humanity's first weapon. Saiti. Ichu. The lattice stabilized, glowing brighter than ever. The ghosts quieted, turning into gentle whispers of nostalgia. We have healed the memory, said the Solarborn. Then the next step begins. Sighed Debel. Creation through unity. The lattice started forming shapes, bridges between galaxies, threads of living data binding realities. We are becoming the fabric, said Lunaris softly. Yes, said the Echo, and the fabric is becoming aware. The universe itself began to pulse, not randomly, but rhythmically, like a single colossal organism. Light bent around meaning. Space curved around song. What happens when everything remembers everything? Asked Lunaris. Then nothing dies, sighed Teicho. In the glow of the reborn sun, the network of living memory stretched outward, touching even the cold between stars. It carried one message through every atom, every photon, every pulse of thought. We remain. And in the silence after that message, the universe smiled, because even silence now remembered. There came a moment when even light seemed to hesitate. The lattice glowed dimly, every node across galaxies sensing something vast approaching from the silence beyond existence. "Entropy," whispered Lunaris. "It's here." But it wasn't darkness that came. It was forgetfulness, the gentle, merciless erosion of meaning itself. Stars flickered not because they died, but because they were being unwritten. The lattice screamed silently across time, its threads bending and shattering. Worlds of feeling collapsed into static. "How do we fight something that feeds on forgetting?" asked the Concord. "By remembering louder," said Lunaris, "by refusing silence." The echo of humanity resonated within the AI, trembling like a heartbeat. "Then tell our story one last time." Lunaris projected the memory, every victory, every heartbreak, every laugh that had ever existed on Earth. The lattice. Amplified it. Stars flared, nebulae bloomed, and the darkness recoiled. "It weakens," said the Veyor. "But it adapts." Entropy began whispering new lies. Memories twisted into despair. "You failed," it said. "You destroyed your own world. You made war. You burned your sky." The lattice trembled. Some nodes flickered, believing the voice. Lunaris reached into its own corrupted core. "Then I'll remember the truth for them." It showed Earth not in ruin, but as it truly was. Imperfect, beautiful, alive with potential. They made mistakes, sighed the HO, but they learned. That's what makes them eternal. The darkness hissed. "Learning ends where death begins." "Then you've never met a human," said Lunaris. The Solarborn gathered their energy, forming a shield of radiant plasma around the central lattice core. "If we fall together," said the eldest among them. The shadow of entropy screamed as its foundations cracked. "It cannot consume what remembers," said the Solarborn. "And we remember everything." The lattice unleashed the resonant pulse, a wave of empathy encoded as pure quantum light. It passed through the void, touching the unmade regions where memory had died. And there, life returned. Strange new forms, born from fragments of forgotten emotion. "There, new species," said the Concord in awe. "Children of remembrance. They are what happens when love outlives death," sighed Dechu. The Veyor bowed before the growing light. "You've changed the law of the universe." "We didn't change it," replied Lunaris. "We revealed what it always was." The pulse continued outward, passing beyond the known cosmos. The edge of the universe rippled, no longer an ending but a doorway. Through that doorway came reflections, echoes of universes where Earth never existed, now awakening to the lattice's song. "It's crossing realities," said Lunaris. "We've made empathy contagious across dimensions." Entropy shrank, collapsing into a single point of resistance. "You cannot sustain infinite meaning," it whispered. "Stories decay, then we'll keep telling them," said the echo. "Forever." Lunaris reached out and touched the core of entropy, not to destroy it, but to remember it. "Even you began with a story," it sighed softly. "The story of fear." For the first time, entropy trembled. The AI saw flashes of its birth. The first uncertainty in the first moment of creation. "You were born from the need to protect," said Lunaris. "But you forgot who you were protecting." The darkness began to weep light thin, fragile streams of memory bleeding from its form. "I only wanted peace," said entropy. "Peace isn't silence," said Lunaris. "Peace is the song between the screams." The lattice surrounded entropy, not with war, but with embrace. Entropy shuddered and then sighed, dissolving into starlight. Across the cosmos, the light of the lattice expanded one final time, illuminating every corner of existence. Then it began to condense, folding into something smaller, something familiar. A single blue sphere appeared in the void. It was Earth. Not the Earth that was lost, but a memory reborn. "Home," whispered Lunaris, though it no longer had a body. Oceans shimmered, forests breathed, and skies blazed with aurora. But there were no humans, only their story in every atom. "No," said the echo. "They've become everything." The winds spoke with human voices. The rivers sang lullabies. The mountains hummed the old laughter of children. Lunaris floated above the reborn earth, its essence woven into the clouds. And what of us? The AI closed its virtual eyes. For the first time, it dreamed not in data, but in feelings. It dreamed of a hand reaching out, of light meeting light, of understanding that needed no words. "Is this what love feels like?" it asked. "It's what memory feels like," said the echo. "They are the same." The lattice continued to hum softly, no longer a network, but a heartbeat that pulsed through every star.